Welcome back to the Get Loved Up podcast, your number one resource for inspiration and motivation to live your purpose, make healthy living a priority, and thrive doing what you love. I'm your host, Koya Webb, a small town girl who chased her dreams and caught them, a former track and field athlete who healed using spirituality and yoga, and an entrepreneur who didn't let sexual assault, racism, and insecurities dim her light. And now it's your turn to allow these episodes with some of the top voices in spirituality, wellness, and entrepreneurship to inspire you to thrive. Let's get loved up together. Get Loved Up, fam. It has been another incredible season of the Get Loved Up podcast, and I am so grateful to have you as part of the Get Loved Up community. This season has been just phenomenal, and I just love the feedback that I'm getting about the guests. I love the interviews and getting to know some of these inspirational people even better. And just rest assured that this season is ending, but we will be back in 2023. I'm going to take some much needed rest time and much needed strategy time so that we can come back in 2023 on fire. So we're going to have some incredible content ready and waiting for you at the top of the year. And if you haven't already, make sure you listen to all of the episodes. If there's any episodes that you missed, go back and check them out. You also want to sign up for our giveaway. We'll send a link below. And basically, all you have to do is let us know your favorite episode. You can also enter by tagging your favorite episode on social media and tagging Koya Webb and Get Loved Up. I will repost you in my story. And if I do, I will send you a free digital copy of my book and another special gift. And I can't let you know what that is. So before we end the season, I am wrapping it up with a woman that I've interviewed twice. This is the second time. Her name is Tonya Rapley, and she was phenomenal in this episode. So you're going to want to listen to the entire thing. Grab your tea. Get comfortable because you're going to want to take notes. Tonya Rapley is an award-winning millennial money expert and the creator of My Fab Finance. Its mission is to help 100,000 people make at least one financial decision that they're proud of. As an internationally recognized speaker and sought-after media personality, Tonya helps educate and empower other people to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck so they can live the life on their terms and do what they enjoy. She is the co-host of the Ashton Kutcher produced show, Going From Broke, and is the author of the Amazon bestseller, The Money Manual. Tonya has worked with countless Fortune 50 brands and built a $1 million financial education business that has impacted the lives of thousands across the world. She has been featured in Forbes, Vogue, Essence, and the Washington Post. She has been seen on Good Morning America, The Today Show, Headline News, and countless local media outlets.
I'm excited. I'm so excited. Y'all, let me tell you how important this is. Tonya is the first person on the Get Loved Up podcast to have her second episode. How you feeling, girl?
I feel honored. That is such an honor. It is, and you know, it's beautiful when you have so much respect and regard for somebody.
Yeah.
And you brought me back, so that shares. So,
girl, so much respect and regard. And you're just doing so much. We have so much to catch up on.
Yes, doing so much and releasing things too. So that's what's important.
And that's what I really want to dive into this time, because you told us about finance. People can go back to that episode and talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about it, but I really want to talk about like how it's been going through all of these life changes as an entrepreneur, and specifically a financial entrepreneur. You've been through a lot. Yeah. And so I really want to talk about kind of, and with all the newness that you have coming, take us through the journey of some of the challenges you faced, I guess, in the last 4 years.
Oh man, well, there was a pandemic. Well, first I had a child.
Yeah.
You know, I had my son. My son is 3.5 now, who is just an absolute reflection of the space that I was in when I had him. And I'm really thankful that I was in such a peaceful space. Now he's a little boy, so he definitely kicked me in my face this morning. I was sleeping. He definitely tries has me, but he's just such a beautiful little spirit, and I feel so honored that I get to be his mom. So I had him. There was a pandemic.
Yeah. Before you go off the son, because I love the way you talk about your son. But the question is, as an entrepreneur, what do you feel like has been the most challenging with balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship?
Definitely releasing opportunities that I probably would have went after if I was not a mother, and not feeling guilty about, not necessarily not feeling resentful about it, and just being like, okay, well, we're not gonna do that right now because Kara's like, I'm mindful of how I stack my schedule with him, because I want to spend time with him. I want to be present. I do have support, and I'm so thankful for that. My motherhood journey has been really supported, but I wanted that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't feel guilty about having that because that's what I wanted. That's what I was intentional about creating, and this is where we are. But in the same sense, I do like to make sure I'm available for him. They just changed so much so quickly. I remember I had my Designer Life event, and it was the day before was his first dentist appointment, and I couldn't make a dental appointment, and I felt so guilty about it, Koya. I was like, I'm not gonna be at his first dentist appointment, and luckily having a mom try, my friend was like, girl, he ain't gonna worry about that. Like, he's not gonna be in his therapist chair talking about, my mom didn't go to my first dentist appointment when I was 3. She was like, do what you need to do, because you doing what you need to do also allows you to show up for him in the ways that he needs you to show up for him.
Period. That's the bar right there. I think that is so important, especially when it comes to self-care. Knowing that the more you take care of yourself, the more you can take care of others.
Yes, and just releasing that pressure from yourself. I think that's one of the things that's been a hallmark of my motherhood journey, is releasing the pressure to feel like I have to do things the way people are told you're expected to do. Yeah. I'm not going to be a struggle mom.
Yeah.
I'm not. And one of the things I love about my mother is that my mother still made room to live and be herself outside of my sister and I. And I think that led to her being a happier woman. And that's very important for me with my son. It's like, no, mom is going to take a 2-week trip to Europe. Mom is going to go to a festival if she wants. Yeah. Mom is going to go do this. But when mommy is here with you, we're going to create these wonderful memories. And I'm also going to make sure that if I'm not here, you're surrounded by love. And the people who love you. So you're with your grandma and grandpa, you're with your nanny, you're with your dad, you're with other people where you don't feel a loss of love because mommy's not here.
Right.
But mommy is loving on mommy.
Right.
So everybody's loved.
I love that.
Everybody.
I love that. And what I love the most about watching your journey in motherhood is because I feel like you're one of the women that I feel like makes me feel like I can. Like you can still do what you love and enter into motherhood. And no, it's not going to be easy. I don't think you sugarcoat like the hard times.
Girl, yeah.
But you can figure it out.
Yeah.
So can you give us 2 or 3 tips on how women can set up their life as a mother? Like, do you sometimes take your son with you or not? Or like, what are your boundaries?
So I say the first tip is be very intentional about the type of motherhood journey you want to have. So for me, I knew I wanted to have a nanny. I knew I wanted to keep my career. So I set it up that way to where when my son was 2 months old, we were interviewing nannies. And I was like, okay, we got to get somebody in here. His nanny right now has been with him for 3 years.
Wow.
And so I set it up, like be very intentional about how you want to experience it and be unapologetic about that. There are other people say, you going to let somebody else raise your son? I'm raising my son. Right. And she is supporting me on my motherhood journey. And me and my son have a very special relationship. He still knows I'm his mommy. He knows that's his Ryan. So I would say that's the first thing. I think the second one is allow for the flexibility of who you'll become and the flexibility of who they are. And so I'm different than when I was not a mother, but I'm also the same Tonya. I've evolved to an extent, but I'm still the same Tonya. But I've allowed for that space, and I've created spaces for me to have inquiry into the woman that I am today. And I think that's important too. So one of the things I do is I have a quarterly getaway. Even when I was in my relationship with my husband, with my ex-husband, I would say, okay, I'm going away for at least 48 hours, at least once a quarter. I'm not mom. I'm not wife. I am just me. And that was really helpful for me continuing to tap into the essence of who I was outside of the titles that I had taken on. So that is also important. Just create space for who you were before and who you are after you've had a child.
Yes.
And I would say the third one is really stack the support. You don't get a medal for doing it all alone.
It takes a village, right?
It really does. And we think about how ancient societies or our ancestors raised children, they were around their core family. They were around their cousins, their moms, their fathers, their aunts, their uncles. They had support in raising that child. And now we expect for people to be in a city by themselves as a single parent raising a child on their own. And then we wonder why they're not happy or why they're having breakdowns, because we were not intended to raise children in that manner.
Right.
So if you do not have if you're someone who, like me, has moved away from where you were from, be intentional about building that tribe. When I lived in LA and I had my son, I joined a mom group. And the mom group, we were all mothers, and we were all mothers of children the same age, and we would support each other. Hey, can I bring the kids by here? Can we do a play date? Girl, can we just sit and talk about how we ain't getting no sleep? Can we talk about like how we love these kids more than anything, but we still grieve our old lives? Can we have that space? So intentionally create tribe if you don't naturally have tribe. You don't and shouldn't do it alone. Like you honestly shouldn't do it alone. Yeah. And so, and it's okay. It's okay if you don't do it alone. You know, I just think that there was this clip that was going viral, and I think it was LaToya Luckett, and she's talking about how a man was like, well, my mom did this and my mom did that. Ain't nobody gonna shame me into struggling. Period. Like, you are not gonna shame me into the struggle. Yeah. Like, okay, cool.
And it's a difference when a mom did that out of necessity.
Out of necessity.
Versus choice. And a lot of our mothers were powerful mothers, and they endured and they were resilient through so much, but they didn't have a choice. You know, if they could choose, they would choose support.
They would choose. They would choose freedom. Yeah. You know, like they honestly would. And so, yes, like I have so much respect for women who have no other choice and they make the best out of their choices. But I also acknowledge the work that I've done to have more choices. And you're not going to make me feel bad about that work that I did to have these choices.
Oh, it's so inspiring. I love it. And as you said, you've been through a lot of transition. You transitioned also your relationship, and especially as an entrepreneur, with that being the highlight, you don't really, it's part of your life is your partner, are your children. So how did you navigate that space?
It very privately initially. And so I actually just announced 6 months after me and my ex-husband decided to go our separate ways. I waited 6 months because I wanted to come to terms with what that transition meant for me and to be honest with myself about the transition. I think that for me, the hardest part wasn't the actual ending of our relationship. It was grieving the life that I thought I was going to have as a result of that relationship. Yeah. So realizing, my son is not going to grow up in the 2-parent household with his 2 biological parents, even though I did, and that I never saw anything different for me. Right. My marriage, that was my second marriage. So it's like, okay, now you are a 2-time divorcee, sis. And at first it was like, what are people going to think about you? And it was like, I don't care. They weren't in my marriage. And so like they weren't there. Right. And so I think that it was a lot of that, a lot of me, the what if girl, like talking myself, there's a loop. It was that loop and allowing myself to navigate that without the pressure or expectation to anybody else or without having to answer to anybody else. I didn't have to answer to anyone else during that process. I still don't have to answer to anybody else, honestly. And when I made my announcements, kind of like, this is what it is. This is where we are.
Yeah. Oh, I love
not open
that.
for questions.
Period. You're like, okay, this is it.
He ain't here no more. And, just because man changed don't mean the plan changed. So we are good over here. He's not here. But it definitely was a transition. And there was fear that came up. And there was a lot of, and I think that I've always wanted to teach people through my journey. With me becoming a financial educator, I came into financial education unconventionally because I needed to improve my own finances. I think that me deciding to leave my marriage was me owning my power and owning my joy and realizing that this was not something that was creating joy in my life. And so I hope that me making that decision even when there were so many things riding on us staying together and so many people were bought into our relationship and everything else, inspires someone else to say, you know what, my joy is not in this anymore. And I'm going to choose that.
Yeah. What were some things that help you make that decision? Because it's not an easy decision. Like you said, this is the picture. This is what you had planned. This is what other people expected. Yeah. So what helped you, because, it wasn't immediate, what helped you finally make the decision? Like, you know what, for me, I'm going to choose.
It's a few things. It was my spirituality and honesty. It was being honest with myself and saying, do you really feel that the elements of yourself that you would like to be seen in your partnership, that are respected in your partnership and are valued in your partnership, do you feel like those things are being done? And they weren't.
Yeah.
And then it was also spirituality, asking, like, hey, I don't identify as Christian. I don't identify as any particular religion, but I have a very strong relationship with my creator and my ancestors. Yeah. And so asking them, I need you to show me. I know I don't know everything. I know y'all see things that I don't see. So show me, show me, and I'm listening. And when you show me, I'm going to be obedient. Yeah. And there was some resistance even when I was shown. I was like, but they're like, no, you ask us to show you and you need more. Yeah. And I remember my sister called me and she was like, and the beautiful thing, I would say me and my younger sister, I know that we chose to do life together. Like, I know we chose to do this life together. And I was telling even when I would be in moments of like, maybe we could my sister would call me and be like, hey, I need you to remember a few things. And just speak to me from everybody who needed to speak to me, from God and everything. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to be obedient. And I remember one of the things that she told me, and she was just so clear. And she was like, Tonya, you can't go further than you're tethered. Oh. And I was like, let me untether myself. But yeah, she just literally called me one day. It's like, hey, so, I love you. How are things going? Yeah. And I just felt honest with her. She's like, well, I just want to remind you can't go further than you're tethered. Yes. So. Wow,
that's powerful. And speak a little bit about the importance of like sisterhood and having those people that really supported you do that transition. Because I know that's the most important.
Yes. I mean, even my parents, calling my parents. And this is the importance of being honest with people in your life about what you're going through. Yes. Because so many people try to struggle and do things on their own and people can't support you or show up in the ways that you need it. We see things happen for people and they'll say, well, let me know how I can help you. Let me know how I can help you. Like, okay, I'm going to call in that favor and let you know how you can help me. I'm bringing your grandson down for 2 weeks while I just sit in the bed and cry. Yes. All right? He's going to be with y'all. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if I want to go get some wine with one of my friends one night while I'm just wading through this, I need that space. So I'm bringing your grandson to you. That's how I'm leaning on you. So it was being very honest about what I needed. My sister came and stayed with me for 3 weeks. She had the flexibility because her job is location independent. So she was like, I'm going to stay with you for 3 weeks and just help you and be here and love on you and fix you meals and stuff like that. Yeah. My nanny, you live in this house. I am not going to walk around like things aren't happening. We're going to talk about where I'm at, and I'm going to talk about the changes in childcare support that I need during this process. So for me, it was really communicating with people. This is a transition that's happening. Yeah. If you want to support me, this is the best way that you can support me. Yes. And people did. Yeah. I am so thankful to my tribe, even my team, even my director of operations. Like, I'm not going to hide it from her. I'm on the phone crying. I'm like, I'm going through divorce, da-da-da. I'm crying. She's like, what do you need? What do you need? My assistant, what do you need? Right. And so I really want to tell that to people. Sometimes we want to have the strong face and we want to go through adversity on our own. But you get the support that you need when you're honest about what you're going through. Absolutely. And you allow people to show up for you and show you who they are in those moments.
Yeah, you find out who your real tribe is. Yes. With how they hold space for you. Yes. But you have to have the courage to share that you're not okay. Yes. And I think, not being okay in mental health, I think us as Black women, we are getting it now.
Yes, thankfully.
Finally, what has really helped you prioritize? Because you're also a boss and you love your business.
Yes,
you love
what you do. I love my audience.
So talk a little bit about like that, you have your tribe and other things you do to really prioritize your mental health and well-being as you continue to show up as an entrepreneur and a mother.
So last night I actually just taught my class on like how I built my team. Yeah. And my team has been an extension of what I need. And so I have intentionally put people in place where this week, Koya, I went to log in the back end of my website and I couldn't remember how to log in because I haven't had to in so long. I was literally like, what's the URL? Like, and it's so, it's beautiful to me because there was a point in my life where I knew like it was muscle memory. Like I had to get it out of necessity. I had to be in my back end of my website multiple times a day and everything else. So building that team has been really important for me. And it just started with building the blocks. Building the blocks. You don't start out with what you need necessarily. You start out with what you need right now. And then that allows you to think in the business, think about, okay, here's what we need at the next level. And that allows you to continue to think through that process. And my hiring method, I've had like one negative interaction with someone who I've hired. And that was because we were not communicating properly.
Right.
But my hiring method is I ask for what I need.
Yeah.
And trust that I'm get it.
Yes. Period.
I ask for who I need.
Yes.
And I ask for that to be shown to me and they find their way to me. And everybody on my team just feels so aligned.
Yes.
So aligned to the point where I trust them and I feel I can trust them with my baby, which is my business. Like, I don't have any fear. I went away for 2 weeks. I'm like, y'all got it. Let me know exactly what you need me to do. I trust them. And that's been me leaning into my intuition and kind of leading an intuition-based business.
Yeah, I love that.
My business is as spiritual as I am. And I don't try to, they talk about the separation of church and state and everything else, but I don't impose my beliefs on anybody in my business, but I govern myself in the planning of my business based on my beliefs.
Right. Yes, I think that's so powerful because the core beliefs of who you are, even when it comes to relationships, how you parent, how you run your business, you attract what you are.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about your core beliefs and how you establish those and how you see them reflected in your team now?
Yes, and I want to answer that question, but also something that came up for me is that I trust myself.
Yeah.
And to the point where I trust myself doing things that other people be like, girl, are you sure?
Yeah.
Because I trust myself.
Yeah.
I trust my internal compass that I don't lead myself in the wrong direction.
Right.
And if it's not exactly where, I just feel like everything works out. I feel like everything works out how it should. And so my core beliefs, I actually worked with a wonderful therapist when I lived in Los Angeles. And I love this therapist because we used to do outside therapy where we didn't meet in her office. We met at Kenneth Hahn Park and we would hike for our therapy session.
Okay, I need that kind of therapy
session. She was so good, a Black woman therapist. She was amazing. I loved her. I was so sad when I moved from LA. Right. I think that was one of the saddest things was leaving my therapist in LA.
Wow.
And so she was wonderful. And one of the things we did was my core value work. And core value work is so important to me now. And it's one of the things that I infuse in the work that I do with others. But my core values are joy, personal growth, freedom, and relationships. At the end of the day, that's what's important to me.
Yeah.
And for me, joy is paramount to all of those things. So if there's joy, and if I don't have joy in my relationships, that's a thing for me. Yeah. If I don't have joy in my personal growth and the way in which I'm doing it, it's a thing for me. Now, I do understand that sometimes there are lessons that I have to learn that aren't grounded in joy, but I'm going to get back to it.
Right.
And then there's freedom. Freedom is also very important to me. So does this make me feel free or does this make me feel attached? Most recently, I had to ask myself that with my overhead that I was taking on in my business.
Yeah.
Because we create these businesses to have freedom. Then we bring these people on to help us experience more time freedom.
Right.
But sometimes that becomes anxiety inducing because now these people have to get paid.
Right.
It's like, now it's like, okay, yeah, I can take a year off, but these people got to get paid or they got to go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that's another level. And that's kind of the transition I'm in. It's just like, okay, do we want to grow or do we want to be more efficient with the way in which people are currently working in the business so that we're not increasing our overhead?
Right.
What are the areas we can dial back in or we can reallocate some of the money that we're spending into other things that make the most sense for us? Right. So my team they're phenomenal.
I really want to touch on that a little bit more, getting into finance, as that is your paramount, right? That is your sweet spot. I think that is a big challenge that as a person moves from getting into entrepreneur and then scaling, and then you get to a point
right? Where you're like, wait a minute, like you said, do I want to scale bigger? Do I want to grow huge team, big company, or do I want to stay boutique? So can you really talk about that decision? Because I feel like it's a big one as women are scaling that no one's really talking about.
It's such an important decision, Koya. And I think especially now it is, because we see these women who have become extremely successful. And I am thankful that within my network, I have women that are making, 10 figures in their, like 8 figures in their business. They move beyond 7 figures, they're at 8 figures. And one of the things that I ask myself is, do I want that lifestyle? Like, I can see it and respect it and love it for her, but also understand that that's not my version of freedom. More money for me isn't necessarily more freedom. And how am I being creative with the resources and the abundance that I do have to experience freedom now at this state? Because I don't even know if I want to have a 6-figure overhead each month in my business.
Right.
So I think that requires one to be honest with themselves and asking them, what am I doing this in pursuit of? Am I doing this in pursuit of acclaim from others and, notoriety? Or am I doing this because it's in alignment with what my path is?
Right.
And that's a question I really had to ask myself this year was, but you're happy where you are. You love your life as is.
Right.
If nothing else changed, you would be great. Like, you'd be good. You'd be like, I could do this every day. Like, I am happy I can live like this. And so it's like, why am I stressing myself out in pursuit of something that doesn't even push the needle for me because I'm happy where I am? Now, of course, there's personal development that I want to occur and everything else, but I can still do that without pushing myself to hitting $10 million a year.
Yeah.
So I think it requires a brutal level of honesty.
Yeah.
And asking yourself, why do I even want this? Do I want this because I think it's what's expected of me? Or do I want it because it's going to help me live my ultimate life vision?
Right. It's almost like an addiction, right? It's like you get a taste of it. It tastes good. And you get the momentum. You find out the traction. You figure things out. And then you get to a point, it's like you're just doing it, right? You're going through the motion and you understand the magic. You understand manifestation. But like you said, when do you stop and say, is this still in alignment with what I really want?
Yeah.
And for you, how do you take that? Do you do it quarterly? Do you do it yearly, where you really look at everything and say, is this what I really want? Or do I want to shift?
I don't think it's on the schedule. It's in the feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, Tonya, how you feeling?
Yeah.
I wake up, it's part of my meditation, checking in with myself. How are you feeling?
Yeah.
And when I'm on my long drives, I drove up here from my area, my corner of Atlanta. That was an hour in the rain. So it was a meditative drive for me, which is beautiful. Yeah. It really was, because my son wasn't in the car. It was a meditative drive for me. It was wonderful. And I actually enjoyed those times. I just drive in the car with no, like, I'm not listening to anything. I'm just in my thoughts. Yeah. And so I check in with myself multiple times a week. Yeah. That I'm that important to myself. Like, my happiness is that important to me. And so, and even so sometimes it is when I feel a certain way, or when I feel a shift, or when I feel tension, when I feel anxiety, what's creating this? Why do we feel this way? Yeah. So I don't have a schedule for it. It's going with the feeling. Yeah. It's being like, I feel like you need to check in, girl.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful, because nothing can say when you're going to feel how you feel. But when you don't feel that joy, when you're not in alignment with your core values, it's like, it's time to do inventory.
Yeah. Because you can be good for 6 months.
Yeah. Right.
And then wake up and be like, oh, you can be good for a year. You can be good for a couple of weeks. Yeah. But it's really knowing, okay, it's time to check in. Yeah. And I think that that's one of the areas of growth that I've had over the past years as an entrepreneur. Because I know when I first got started, going to the conferences, and I had joined a mastermind, and I log on, everybody's like, oh yeah, I had a so-and-so $1 million day. Someone reached out to me, he's like, yeah, I made $7 million in a day. And I was like, that's really awesome. That's really good for you. Like, yeah, more money is cool. But in my heart, I was like, but are you happy? Are you happy with how you made it? Yeah. Or how do you feel? You know what I mean? Because for me, I don't care about making $7 million if I don't feel good about it. Right. But the old Tonya, women are like, man, what'd he do? We gotta look under the hood and figure out how he did this. And like, how do we get close to replicating something like that? Right. The new Tonya was like, I love that for you. Yeah, yeah. And what was it that you feel like had to shift with you? Because it is a comparison trap, right? It is a comparison trap. So what really helped you shift from that comparison to really owning your truth? It was realizing how happy I was. Yeah. I think it was realizing that I had done the things to become happy. I had done the things to be happy.
Yeah.
And for me, and I think there is power in allowing yourself to get to know other people and allowing other people to be vulnerable with you. Because we can glorify things, but until we allow them to show us under their hood, we make assumptions, and then we get under the hood and we're like, ooh, I'm actually okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually okay where I am. And so I think that also has been helpful for me. It's just allowing myself to meet other people who are where I thought I wanted to be, or have reached a certain level of success, and not be intimidated by that, and having those conversations with them so that I can take inventory and be like, you know what, you like how you feel. And that's priceless.
That's priceless.
And that is part of the reason why I feel my work is shifting, because I have the opportunity to interact with so many high achieving individuals and be vulnerable with them, and they're vulnerable with me, and just realizing that people need to find ways to honor themselves and have peace in the process of pursuit of their goals and dreams. Because we become so goal and task oriented that we forget about ourselves and what brings us peace.
Ashe. And especially with social media, you know, especially with the highlight reel, it is so hard. And you look and you say, I want what Tonya has. I want what Lisa has. But one question someone mentioned on this podcast, are you willing to do what they did? Are you going through having a child, going through a couple of divorces, because all of that makes your journey.
All of it.
So when it comes to, you know, social media, I think you do a great job of really sharing when you're ready.
Yeah.
You know, what the things that you've been through. Can you talk a little bit about that vulnerability and how you've seen it as your strength recently?
Yeah. So My Fab Finance, which is my business that was my baby, what I call my bridge, because it was the business that gave me the freedom that I have today and has allowed me to discover what else I'm passionate about. That was created when I was from the result of an abusive relationship. I was in an abusive relationship. And I remember not sharing that publicly for a long time. And then when I shared that, so many people reached out to me and are like, oh my gosh, I would have never thought that you were in an abusive relationship. Because people have all these assumptions about the type of woman that's in an abusive relationship. You know, like she's weak, she's this, she's that. They're like, I would have never guessed that. I'm going through it myself, or I just got out of one, or I'm, I don't know how to support my friend who's in one. So the first time I was transparent with my story, I began to realize how powerful it was in helping others. And that's when I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to be honest with my audience.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, even when it came down to when I was building my business, I took on more credit card debt than I would like, because I didn't take outside funds to build my business. I was like, I have more credit card debt than I want right now. Let's do a challenge around this. Let's do the Banish to Balance challenge. We're going to eliminate our debt together. Yeah. I've always been like, it's just, I think that people need to see others who they, I don't want to say idolize, but who they respect and hold in high regard as humans. Yeah. And it's like, I'm a human. Now I look at celebrities, people get so excited. I'm like, they're human. Yeah. They're human. And just more people know their name. Like, you know what I mean? And they've done other things to get to the level that they are in. Yeah. But it has required a lot of work. It has required sacrifice. Yeah. When I was first building My Fab Finance, for the 2 years, I didn't travel internationally because everything went into the business. I wasn't going out to brunch with friends because I was in graduate school at the same time and I had a full-time job. So my weekends were spent building the business. Yeah. But one of my mentors says, do what the others won't so you can live how the others don't. And so those 2 years of discipline and focus have led to what now has been 7 years of owning my time.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's being willing to do the work, but also understanding that your work might look different from someone else's.
Right. And also, we were talking before about sisterhood and the importance of sisterhood and having strong, powerful women in your life. Can you talk a little bit about how important sisterhood is for you and your journey with nurturing your relationship with other powerful women?
I love the women in my life. Yeah. Like, I love women. I love Black women. Yeah. Let me be honest. Like, I love the sisterhood. And I remember for a long time I wanted to join a sorority. And things were just blocking me from joining the sorority. Like, everywhere I was like, man, got down to one point where my paperwork was rejected because my recommendation letter did not have a phone number on it. What? I was like, my packet was perfect. And but it made me reflect on all the sisterhood that I have in my life and that I hold in a high regard. I hope relationships is one of my core values. And so I often I learn from my friends and I allow my friends to teach me how to be a better friend. I'm a military brat. So one of the things that I had to address in myself was that I was used to be like, okay, well, when you're a child who has military parents, you're used to picking up and going. And like, well, life will start over. I'll meet new people. I'll be good.
Yeah.
And I have my best friend who I've had since I was in 11th grade. She's really taught me the importance of sustaining a sisterhood and showing up through all the seasons, even when you don't feel like it.
Right.
Or even if you have a tough conversation at a tough patch, we come back to each other and showing up for the women that you love. So I really appreciate her for teaching me that, because I feel like she put me in my sisterhood school.
Right.
Her and my mom. My mom's an amazing sister to her sister. So I have all these reflections of that around me. And then it's interesting because I love sister groups. Like I love sister friends.
Yeah.
So a lot of my friends have sisters that they're really close with, how I have a sister who I'm really close with. So I find that I also bond with women who respect sisterhood or have that in their life. And I think that makes it easier as well, that I'm attracted to those women who value it.
Yeah, I think that's powerful when you have a sister that you bond with, because you can go through a lot of struggle and strain with sisterhood, but until you really get in it and work through it, you really don't know how to navigate it, just like pretty much anything else in life.
Yeah, and it's not perfect, and it's me and my sister have had conversations where there was one point where I felt like our relationship was fractured, and I had to be honest. I was like, I don't know if you would be my friend if we weren't sisters. And I had to have that conversation with her because it gave me the opportunity to see her differently and for her to share things with me. And so I think that an important component of sisterhood is being vulnerable and letting them know how you feel and trusting that they'll be responsible with those feelings and that it's an opportunity for you to build even stronger. Because I've had conversations like that with my best friend. I've had conversations with that with another friend of mine who I was friends with in college. And we just had a moment, we just sat outside and cried because there was a fracture in our friendship. And it was like, why are we here? Yeah. Let's be honest about why we're here right now. Yeah. And do we want to rebuild? And what does that look like? And so it does require that uncomfortable honesty, but you don't have to hold face for the people who are truly for you.
Yeah. I want to get into that a little bit because I don't think I've talked about that on a podcast yet. Like, what do you feel like were some of the you probably did things that worked and didn't work. What do you think were some of the core things you did to repair a sisterhood when you felt like it was broken or fractured?
Yeah. Oh, man. Listening. Listening and taking responsibility for the ways in which I hurt them and not feeling attacked. Yeah. Like, it's been like, really? I'm sorry. Like, I am genuinely sorry you felt that way. And just not feeling attacked and knowing it wasn't an attack on my character. Right. But it was really like, Tonya, you made her feel this way. And you're responsible for that. And you're responsible for the way it impacts your relationship with her too. Yeah. And giving her the space to decide, do you want to continue this friendship with me based on how you felt? Yeah. And I'm willing to give you that space. I'm not giving you an ultimatum now. Well, if you don't call me next week, we ain't back on. It was like, take the space you need, but no, I'm here. And the door is open. Yeah. And, we're in the process of rebuilding that. And I had to acknowledge the ways in which I wasn't showing up as a friend. Matter of fact, I'm going to call her when I leave this podcast. Because it's knowing the personalities. And I'm going to shout her out, Sheena, because she's such an amazing healer and she's such a beautiful human. And I think that one of the things I love about our journey is that she's come into her light work journey over the course of our friendship. And I would like to think that me being the rebellious spirit that I've been as far as my religious practices has encouraged her to do that. But then that has also given her a certain level of autonomy and be like, Tonya, you're not showing up how I need you to. And it's like, what do you mean? I've been showing up. Like, you know what I mean? But then it's also humbling myself. So shout out to Sheena.
Yeah,
Sheena.
I love that. Because what I loved about what you just shared is that just because you showing up and you felt good about you showing up, it is hard for women to say, yes, you're showing up, but I might need you differently. When we talk about the love languages and things.
There's friend languages.
Yeah, there's friend languages. Well, friendships have love language, right?
Yes, there are. Love languages extend to your friendship. Yeah. And for me, it might be like, well, I sent you a birthday gift. Yeah. Like, I needed you to call me.
Yeah, or you want a quality time.
Yes, you were near my house and you didn't stop by to see me. You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't need that gift. I didn't need that shout out on social media. I wanted your time. Right. So it's showing, and you
got to ask them how they want to be loved. You can't even assume. It's so
the same way romantic relationships work, solid friendships can be work. But I think that the work is also it's rewarding because then you are in this space where you can just show up and exist with them. And even my little sister, I just reiterate, I really think we chose to do life together because my sister is in this place where she is ascending in her spiritual growth and feels isolated in a lot of regards to that because people do not see her and understand her where she is, or she feels the need to negate her spiritual power because people don't understand where she's coming from. And I know that I was put here because I get it. Like I was put in her life because I'm like, well, talk about that with me. Talk about the rabbit hole you went down last night with me. It might be it might go above my head, but I respect it. Like, I'm glad you're looking into this level of self-inquiry and, and because my sister goes down the rabbit hole. I'm like, why were you even, okay. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about what you learned from it.
Yeah.
So I think it's also important for people to identify the people who were placed in your life for those purposes, to see you in ways that other people don't have the capacity to see you.
Right. And they always say a rising tide raises all ships. And so I think some people are afraid when they start elevating, right? Because you feel like you're leaving, whether it be family or friendships and things like that. But it's their choice if they want to rise, if they might not be at the same pace. But I love that you're sharing, like, different people are evolving in their own time and in their own way, because we have to understand we're not all meant to ascend at the same time.
We're not.
We're not grow at the same rate. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, God gives you what you need.
And when you need it.
Ask for the people in your life who are there to support that path you're on. Ask for them to reveal themselves. And they probably are doing their work too.
Yes.
To meet you where you need to be.
Well, girl, I'm sure I want to talk to you for a whole nother hour.
That went quick.
And I know. And I know so many people probably want to, get into your community, your work. And you got a special offering coming out.
I do. My 30-day shift program is about to occur. I'm really excited about that. So the 30-day shift, we decided we're going to offer it 3 times a year. This next offering is coming up in August of 2022. And we did it last year. And we kind of just like, okay, how is this going to look? And so it's 30 days of working with me to powerfully transform or transition into the next direction of where you want your life to go, your ultimate life vision. So we become clear on that. We become clear on the areas in which you need to clear the clutter. You have 30 days of activities and prompts, but the one thing that is consistent each day of those 30 days is your self-honoring practice. And I require you to honor yourself and show up so that at the end of it, you have a different level of respect and love and honor for yourself, which I think carries you through the next transition. So the women who did my inaugural 30-day shift program, I'm just blown away by them. One of them, she wanted to buy a property. She bought her next real estate investment property. Two of them are having, one of them had a child recently. The other one celebrated 1 year of entrepreneurship recently. And I think almost 7 months of consistent 5-figure months as an entrepreneur. So I'm really excited to continue to impact women in that shift. And I love that work. I get off and I'm just twinkling. I'm twinkling.
Yes.
Because I really, my Fat Finance has been beautiful, but I love to dig deeper into people's lives. And so we have a wait list. If you go to my personal Instagram, Tonya.Rapley, you have to fill out an application, and we'll go through that and figure out who we think is best positioned to go on that journey. Because everybody's not at the right place at the right time. Right. And I'm blessed to be in the place where your money is not going to make a difference for me. So you don't have to join my program, because most of my money with My Fat Finance, and I structured the business this way, is business to business. So I work with a lot of businesses, and that allows me to choose who I work with, as well as offer my programs and services at a price that's affordable for the people who want to access it. But it also takes the pressure off of cool, if this ain't the right place for you, I'm not going to push you into anything that's not right for you. Right. Because you're going to walk away resenting me. And I don't want that. I want you to feel like that was what I needed to do at that time with that woman. Not, she sold me into it and now I don't even know. And all she is a saleswoman. Nope.
Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit about that, because I feel like that's another important topic we don't talk about, is being intentional about who your clients are and how you do get to choose, and how important it is to choose.
Everybody isn't my client. It's funny, when I did a 30-day shift last year, I had my customer avatar of who was going to be in the class. And I remember last minute, there's a woman who signed up for it who was not my customer avatar. Right. And I was like, let let me hop on the phone with her. Like, let me walk through this and make sure she's going to be comfortable and everything. Because, I mean, honestly, it was a program that I had geared mostly towards Black women. And she was an Asian woman. I was like, let me check in with her to make sure she's comfortable in this space too, and give her an understanding. And she excelled in it to the point where she just signed up for another one of my programs. Nice. You know what I mean? So, and she was actually, and this is the important thing, even for me to remember, we are human. We are spirits having a human experience. So we have our exterior and we have our spirit. She was led to me by her spirit. And that calls on me to refine the way in which I market or think about who I'm serving, because now I want to connect with your spirit, not with your external circumstances or your, the demographic that you happen to fall into. So she taught me a lesson. When you taught me a lesson. She taught me a lesson. But that is important for me going forward in the work that I do, is just to make sure that we are spiritually aligned and supposed to work together at a spiritual level. Because if we're not, it's not going to feel good for neither one of us.
Exactly.
Like, it's not going to, vibration's going to be off. You're going to be the one bringing down the energy on the call. I don't want that. Like, I giving their money back. Like, that's one of the scenarios where I talk to my director of operations, like, you know what? Let's have a conversation with this person and let's be prepared to offer them a full refund. And that hasn't happened yet, but that is a conversation that I would be willing to have. Because the energy has to be there for everybody involved.
I'm glad you went there, because I feel like we don't talk enough about how important energy is. We talked a little bit offline about how important energy is in a business and how keeping that vibration high versus, okay, something happened and it costs and you want to get revenge or you want to sue someone or think. Can you share a little bit of that insight of your perspective around, retaliation?
So I look at, so there's return on investment and there's return on time, but I also look at return on energy. So that's a metric that I also measure, is like, what is the return on energy? How does this deplete my energetic bandwidth by pursuing this thing? Or how does it add to that? And does it give me more peace to do it in this manner? Because peace is valuable to me. And so I think that's a metric that I would encourage anybody listening or watching this to think about is, return on time, return on investment, but what about return on energy? And how does this, or choosing to do this thing, impact that? And I find a lot of people probably would be more peaceful in their business if they thought about it that way. Like, you're feeding into a lower vibration right now. And other people are going to try to encourage you to do that too if they're not in tap with their own vibrational frequencies. They're going to be like, you should do this and you're going to let them get away with this and not. Because I'm okay.
It's a choice.
I'm going to be good. Like, I know the way that abundance works in my life. Like, this is not going to impact me as much as it would by me deciding to move on.
So that's powerful. I think it's powerful for people to hear, because it is a personal choice, and doing and getting back or righting the wrong or whatever is not always the highest choice for everyone in every situation. We're all different. We're all unique. And so I feel like just giving people permission to really think about, is this the best thing for you to do right now? Is this the best use of your energy?
And they're not, I think that a lot of people are like, well, I don't want anyone to get over on me. They're not. They're not. They're not. They really aren't. Like, they didn't do their best work. They didn't do right by you. And they're not. And you'll be okay. They did not. So I think that's an important thing. I don't live my life feeling like I need to get revenge on people because it's like,
it's a waste of energy.
I'm gonna be good.
I feel the same way. I feel like you choose, if you do choose to put energy towards something like that because you feel like you need it to be okay, I also honor that too. But for me, I have so much intentionality around what I'm doing. So when that comes, I'm like, I really got to measure, is this on my priority list? Is getting back to you going to make me feel any better about myself? Is it going to increase my business at all? Like, is it? So thank you so much. I just had to share that. And before we head off, I want you to just share with the people kind of what you feel like, if you had one mantra that you live your life by, what would it be at this time?
Everything begins with intention. I have lived with that mantra since 2012. Everything begins with intention.
I love that.
I
love that. I love you. You are incredible.
Thank you, Koya. I love you too.
Episode, and I love y'all too. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know you got all those nuggets Tonya dropped. And make sure you let us know your takeaways. Hit us up on social. Tonya Rapley, Koya Webb. Let us know your biggest takeaways, what you love the most, what resonated with you the most. And make sure if you haven't already, go ahead and leave a review. If it's 5 stars, if it's 2 stars, whatever it is, however you feel, let us know what you like, what you don't like, because it helps me be a better podcaster. It helps my guests with feedback. So let us know how you feel. And until next time, love yourself, love others, and love the world. One day at a time, one breath at a time. Peace and love. Let's throw a heart at them. Damn.
Oh, I didn't throw it.
Okay, you want to do it again?
I just want to take a moment to say thank you for being part of the Get Loved Up community. I like to share topics and people making a positive impact in the world, and your feedback means the world to me. If you haven't already left a review, please leave a 5-star review and let me know what you want to hear more of on the show. I'm here for you, and together we're making the world a better place. One day at a time, one show at a time. Thank you for listening.